Before I start this story that's going to touch your heart, tell me in the comments, what city are you watching this video from? I love knowing where you all are. And trust me, this story is going to move you in ways you can't imagine. Marina woke up at 3 a.m. to little Gabriel's crying. But this time it wasn't just the baby that woke her up. It was the sound of the door slamming hard downstairs. Ricardo was back. And from the sound of heavy footsteps on the stairs, she knew he was drunk again. At 23 years old, Marina was living a nightmare that had lasted 2 years. What started as a perfect relationship had become her own prison. Ricardo controlled every penny that came into the house, every person she talked to, every place she stepped foot in. That night something was different. When Ricardo stumbled upstairs, his eyes had a rage that Marina had never seen before. "Where's the money I left on the table?" he shouted, gripping her arm tightly. I bought diapers for Gabriel, Ricardo. He was... The slap came before she could even finish her sentence. But this time, something inside her broke. Not from pain, from courage. While Ricardo passed out on the couch, Marina made the most important decision of her life. With trembling hands, she took the only $5 she had hidden in the pocket of an old blouse, wrapped little Gabriel in a blanket and ran. It was 4 a.m. when she stepped onto the street for the first time in months without asking anyone's permission. No destination, no plan, nothing. Just her 8-month-old baby and $5 in her pocket. But what happened from that dawn on will show you the power that exists within each of us when we decide to no longer accept the unacceptable. For 3 nights, Marina slept on a park bench, covering Gabriel with the only blanket she brought. In the first days, she only ate when she found leftover food that someone had thrown away. But you know what she did? She always saved the best parts so her breast milk wouldn't fail him. You have no idea what it's like to look at your 8-month-old son and not have even a piece of bread to give him. Marina cried in secret so Gabriel wouldn't notice. She was ashamed, scared, but above all, she was determined. On the second day on the street, a group of teenagers started making fun of her. "Look at that, another one begging with a child." The words hurt more than any slap Ricardo had ever given. But that night, Marina made a promise to herself. "One day, I'm going to prove to everyone that I'm worth much more than they think." On the 4th day, when Marina was at her limit, Gabriel crying from hunger, she without strength even to cry anymore, an elderly lady named Mrs. Alice saw her at the park. "Child, you can't stay here with this baby," the lady said. "Come with me." Pause to build tension. Marina hesitated. After Ricardo, she didn't trust anyone. But when Mrs. Alice extended her hand and said, "I was also young once and needed help," something in that 60-year-old woman's eyes touched Marina's heart. Mrs. Alice owned a small bakery in the neighborhood for 30 years. A widow with no children, she had been working alone since her husband died. She offered Marina to clean the bakery at dawn in exchange for a place to sleep in the back room and 2 meals a day. Marina accepted immediately. And you know what she did on that first day of work? She cleaned that bakery as if it were a queen's palace. Every corner, every shelf, every pan, everything shining. She worked 14 hours straight that first day. Mrs. Alice was impressed. "Girl, in 30 years of bakery, nobody has ever cleaned like this here." But the real test came on the 3rd day. Marina woke up and heard Mrs. Alice coughing a lot in the next room. The lady had a high fever, couldn't even get out of bed. "Mrs. Alice, you need to go to the doctor," Marina said worriedly. "Girl, I can't. If I don't open the bakery today, I'll lose customers." Marina looked at her and said something that even she didn't believe she'd have the courage to say. "Then teach me. I'll open the bakery today." Mrs. Alice taught Marina how to make French bread over the phone. Marina had never made bread in her life. She burned the first batch. The second came out raw. On the 3rd, she cried in desperation. But then she remembered the promise she made to herself at the park. She took a deep breath, looked at Gabriel who was sleeping in the stroller and said, "My son, your mother is not going to give up." The 4th batch came out perfect. When the first customers arrived at 6 a.m. and saw Marina instead of Mrs. Alice, some left. But Marina smiled, explained the situation and offered the warm bread. One by one customers started tasting and, wow, what delicious bread. At the end of the day, Marina had sold everything. Everything. When Mrs. Alice got better and came down to see how it had gone, she couldn't believe what she saw. "Marina, in 30 years I've never sold everything in one day." Gradually, Marina started helping with production every day. She woke up at 4 a.m., put Gabriel in the improvised stroller that Mrs. Alice gave her and worked. She learned to make bread, learned about customer service, about inventory control. But the real transformation began when Marina discovered she had a special talent. She could create new recipes just by tasting the ingredients. Cakes, pies, special breads. Everything she touched turned to gold. The first cake she invented was by accident. Mrs. Alice had bought too much condensed milk and didn't know what to do with it. Marina looked at the ingredients and said, "How about a cake that melts in your mouth?" She mixed condensed milk, fresh coconut, flour and a touch of vanilla that she had never seen anyone use in cake. The result? A recipe that became the neighborhood sensation. In 6 months, bakery sales doubled. People came from other neighborhoods just to taste Marina's creations. She had created 12 exclusive recipes, and each one was more requested than the previous. One day a customer asked, "Who's the baker here? I want to hire her for my daughter's wedding." Mrs. Alice pointed to Marina and said proudly, "It's her. Marina." Marina felt something she hadn't felt in years, pride in herself. That's when Mrs. Alice made a proposal that would change everything. "Marina, how about we become partners?" The partnership proposal came at the perfect time. Marina, who a year ago barely knew how to fry an egg, was now being invited to be a partner in a bakery that she herself had helped transform. "Mrs. Alice, I don't have money to invest," Marina said humbly. "Child, your work, your dedication and your recipes are worth more than any money. You'll enter with 40% of the partnership." Marina cried that day. But this time they were tears of joy. For the first time in her life, someone was recognizing her worth. 2 years after that night of escape, Marina was no longer the same person. She and Mrs. Alice had expanded the business. The original bakery was renovated and they opened 2 branches in the city. Marina had become a small entrepreneur, and Gabriel, now almost 3 years old, grew up seeing his mother as an example of strength. But life still held challenges. In the first year as a partner, Marina made mistakes. She miscalculated a large order and the bakery had losses. She felt terrible, but Mrs. Alice said something she never forgot. "Marina, making mistakes is part of learning. What you can't do is be afraid to try." That's when Marina discovered something else about herself. She was good with numbers, with planning, with management. She started studying on her own. She borrowed business books from the library, watched YouTube videos, asked other merchants in the neighborhood. In 6 months, she had organized the entire financial system of the bakeries. She created control spreadsheets, inventory systems, marketing strategies. Sales grew 180% in the first year of partnership. But the moment that really changed everything happened on a common Saturday afternoon. Marina was at the main store when a woman came running in, desperate. "Please, do you make birthday cakes? It's for tonight, my daughter turns 5 and the bakery I ordered from left me hanging." Marina looked at the clock, 3 p.m. The party was at 7. It was impossible. "What theme does your daughter like?" Marina asked. "Princesses," the woman replied, almost crying. Marina worked like never before. In 4 hours, she created the most beautiful cake she had ever made in her life. A 3-story castle with sugar towers, chocolate princes and princesses, and details that looked like magic. When the girl's mother saw the cake, she started crying. "This is the most beautiful thing I've ever seen in my life." That night, Marina realized it wasn't just about bread or cake. It was about making people happy. It was about turning special moments into unforgettable memories. The photo of that cake went around the entire city's WhatsApp. The next day, Marina had 47 calls to make personalized cakes. That's when she had an idea that would change everything. What if we created a line just for personalized cakes? Mrs. Alice loved the idea. They created Marina Artistic Confectionery, a brand within the bakery just for special cakes. In 3 months, Marina was making cakes for weddings, graduations, quinceañeras. The first wedding she decorated was unforgettable. 300 guests, 5-tier cake, and when the bride and groom cut the first piece, everyone stood up and applauded. Marina had never felt so fulfilled. But life still had a surprise in store for her. On a common afternoon, while Marina was serving at the main store, a man in a suit entered. He looked around, tasted some things and finally introduced himself. "My name is John Carlos, I'm an investor. I heard about your bakeries throughout the region. Actually, I drove 200 kilometers just to see your work." Pause to build tension. Marina got nervous. She still had that insecurity of someone who came from where she came from. "I'd like to propose a partnership," he continued. "We have a chain of markets and we want to sell your products in 50 cities. But it's not just that. We want you to teach other people to replicate your model." Marina, the same woman who 4 years ago had fled with $5 in her pocket, was now being sought by investors to expand nationally. Tone of disbelief and emotion. She asked for a week to think. That night, Marina talked a lot with Mrs. Alice. "Child, I'm already 64 years old. My dream was for someone to continue my work. You not only continued, you transformed everything into something much bigger than I ever imagined." Marina accepted the proposal, but with one condition. Mrs. Alice would be a lifetime advisor to the company, and a percentage of profits would always be destined to help other women in vulnerable situations. In 1 year, the products of Fresh Starts, Marina Confectionery and Bakery, were being sold in 12 states. Marina created a franchising program where she taught women in difficult situations to set up their own businesses. The company grew so much that Marina opened a confectionery school. Not just any school, a school that offered full scholarships to women who went through situations similar to what she experienced. The first student at the school was a 19-year-old who had run away from home pregnant. Marina looked at her and saw herself a few years ago. She taught not just recipes but self-esteem, financial planning, inner strength. Today that girl has 3 stores of her own. Marina developed the $5 Project, a program that offers microcredit, training and mentorship for women who want to restart their lives. The name was a tribute to the only $5 she had when she fled. To this day, the project has already helped more than 500 women build their own businesses. Today, Marina is 28 years old. She is CEO of a company that revenues more than $8 million a year and directly employs 340 people. Gabriel, now 8 years old, studies at the best school in the city, but every weekend he goes to his mother's company and helps with social projects. He knows his mother's story exactly. Marina never hid anything from him. "Son," she always says, "our story didn't start with $5. Our story started with courage." More personal tone. Marina bought a beautiful house, has a new car, travels the world giving lectures on female entrepreneurship. But do you know what the most special day of the year is for her? The day she goes back to that park where she slept with Gabriel. Not to remember the suffering, but to remember the strength she found there. She brings flowers to place on the bench where she slept and always whispers, "Thank you for teaching me that I was stronger than I imagined." Marina never had contact with Ricardo again. She didn't need to. She built a life so full of purpose, that the past became just a memory that made her stronger. Last year, he tried to get in touch through a lawyer, asking for child support for Gabriel. Marina wasn't even nervous. She simply showed all the receipts proving she had always supported her son alone and even said, "If he wants to meet Gabriel, the door is open. But he'll have to prove he's changed." Ricardo never showed up again. Tone of wisdom. Marina discovered something that many of us forget. That sometimes, the end of everything is the beginning of everything. That sometimes, losing everything is the only way to discover who we really are. She learned that courage isn't not being afraid. Courage is being afraid and still taking the next step. Marina didn't just escape from an abusive marriage that dawn. She escaped to the life she always deserved to have. And you know what's most beautiful? Gabriel grew up seeing that a real man isn't someone who screams or hits. A real man is like his mother's company employees, respectful, hardworking, who treat everyone with dignity. Marina is raising a son who will break the cycle. And that, perhaps, is the greatest victory of all. And now I want to know from you, have you ever lived a moment in your life where you needed to start from scratch? Where you needed to find strength you didn't even know you had? Tell me your fresh start story here in the comments. And if this story inspired you in any way, leave your like so more people can see that it's always possible to start over. Because just like Marina discovered, sometimes $5 and a lot of courage are all you need to completely change your life. See you in the next video. And remember, your fresh start can begin today.